All in?
All in?
All in.
All in.
Everybody got a little something, huh? Call.
He's not on.
Has no patience, look at his face and in his eyes. He's been way bound to the die. Always taking chances, all those conversations. Don't know if I'll make it, don't know why he even tries. Say, oh, I am a believer. Oh, don't know how I'll be if I'm not free to take a lead. Oh, I am a believer. Oh, ground beneath my feet, but I don't flee cause I believe. I'll stay down.
Welcome back to Raising the Nuts. This is my second ever meetup game. The first one happened a few days ago. I haven't even made the video yet, and we're already ready for the second one. Up here at Rivers in Schenectady, New York, right outside of Albany. Never been here before. Got invited up here by the poker room manager, Dave Grubb, who is a longtime friend of mine. I'm excited to explore the property. Haven't even done anything yet. Jody and I just got here about an hour ago. No kids in this one. They are left at home. We didn't have a babysitter, and also there didn't seem like there was too much to do in the surrounding areas of Schenectady, so we left them at home. But there's about 57. What?
It sounds like they're at home alone.
They're at home alone.
With no baby. We didn't have a babysitter.
Jody's on the other side of this camera making fun of me. But there's 57 people on the list right now. We'll be interested to see how many people show up and how many games we get going. This is the first ever meetup game of any kind at this casino, so that's pretty cool to have that here. We're also going to play the WPT Deep Stacks in the next few days, but for now, let's go check out the property and then get into some games. Like I said, we'd never been here before, but the property was beautiful. The entire casino was very nice, and the surrounding area was awesome. I actually took several hikes during my trip here, got out into nature, saw some falls, and some very nice trails in the area. We head down to the poker room at 6 o'clock. The room is very nice. It's small, but well run, and there's a lot of people in the house ready for this meetup game. I buy in for $1,500 in chips, even though we're playing 1-3 with a $500 max. Figure I'm going to need those rebuys playing every hand here, and we get started right away. I'm dealt Queen-Jack offsuit with the Queen of Clubs here in a limp pot. The flop comes down King 10-4 all clubs, giving me the second nut flush draw and an open-ended straight draw. We check to the player in late position who bets $10, and I decide to go for a check raise with this hand, making it $35. Obviously I have some immediate fold equity, but also have draws to get there and have blockers to really strong hands. I would think that most of this player's ace-x of clubs hands would have raised pre-flop, so I think we can remove some of those combinations. So I think this is just a really good hand to check raise with. He does make the call, so now we're looking to improve on the turn or continue applying pressure. The turn card's the 5 of diamonds, which is obviously a complete blank. I decide I want to continue my story and continue to apply pressure, so I make a pot size bet of $100. This will also set up a river jam for about the pot size, and I just want to really put a lot of pressure on his one pair hands. And additionally, my hand plays pretty well because I can get called by some ace high flush draws, a hand like ace 10 with the ace of clubs, ace jack with the ace of clubs, and some other hands that maybe have like jack 10 or king jack with the jack of clubs make a lot of sense. He does decide to make the call, and we have a sizable pot building on one of the first hands, not surprising, and I have queen high. We're going to take a river here and hope to improve our hand or keep bluffing. The river card is the 8 of diamonds, so we don't get there, we have nothing. We have to decide whether we're going to go for it or not. And I think this is a spot we should go for it. We have queen high, which is probably one of the worst hands we'll get to the river with at this point. Our opponent can have some automatic folds, I think, and it's just really hard to call. I know I probably have a poor image given the videos that I've put up so far and given the fact that this player probably watches those videos, but I can't help myself. I got to go for it. All in?
All in?
Should we show? You want to see? Nice to get it through early on in the session, sets a good tone. If it doesn't get through, sometimes things can go off the rails very easily, very quickly. It's even better when shortly after that I look down at a real hand, ace king offsuit in the straddle. There's an open from the button to $30, and I put in the 3-bet to $120, and he makes the call. We take the flop heads up. The flop comes down ace 9-6 with 2 spades, exactly what you want to see when you 3-bet out of position with ace king. 130?
That's a white.
It is a white. He'll let me get away with it though.
Nice try though, I like it.
You got an A for effort. I think this sizing is actually too big. I think I like betting $80 a little bit better, which sets up a turn jam of $300. My opponent does decide to jam it all in there. Call.
He's not all in. He's got a dollar behind.
That's for a deal. Oh, pre-tip. Pre-tip's not good. Pre-tip's not good.
Pre-tip. Got anything?
I have ace king.
You win. Flop really good. Spades. Yeah, not spades. Hoping you didn't have ace king.
I usually have nothing, so that was pretty unlucky. So the ace king holds up against the nut flush draw, and we are off and running here in Schenectady. I love this place. Back to more of what you're used to seeing on this channel. Crappy pre-flop hands, making good post-flop hands, and terrible camera work by me, not getting the actual hand on camera. Here I have 9-6 offsuit, and the flop has come 9-6-4 with 2 spades. My opponent in the small blind has let out for $50, and I make the call. We take the turn heads up. The turn 3 of spades does complete the flush and straight draws, but when my opponent checks to me, he only has $200 behind, so I don't think there's anything to do but just jam it in there and hope to get a call from a worst hand. He makes the call pretty quickly. The river card's the jack of diamonds. I turn over my hand, and we are good to scoop this pot. On to the next hand, I open with 10-9 offsuit and get 4 callers, so we take this flop 5 ways. The flop comes down queen jack 6 with 2 spades, which is a pretty good flop for my hand. When it checks over to me, I definitely can consider a bet. This is a very wet board texture, and it's not a hand that I really want to get blown off of by a raise. So I actually prefer checking here and deciding based on what my opponents do. It checks over to the button who bets $55, and when it gets back to me, I decide to make the call. I think that I can, obviously, first of all, I can improve on a king or an 8, and then I can represent some other hands on later streets. So I decide to call, and we take the turn heads up. The turn card is an offsuit ace. I check, and he checks, and now this is going to be a spot where I'm going to be bluffing most rivers. Fortunately for me, the river is an offsuit 8, so I don't need to bluff anymore. Now I have to decide how to get some value from his hands. I really shouldn't have too many bluffs on this run out, and I want to bet hands like ace king and ace 10 that are one pair hands. So I go ahead with a sizing of $80. It's at this point my opponent looks at his other card. Apparently he was borrowing a page out of my book and playing blind essentially, and he realized he flopped 2 pair and has to make the call and sees the bad news. Ridiculous. I move over to my second table of the night. I have to put my winnings to the side where anybody can come and grab them because I have to start with a new stack at each table. So I'm up $750 after the first session, rebuy again for $500 at this table. Right into action in a heads up raise pot. I tell my opponent I have my favorite hand, which of course is 7 deuce because the Poker After Dark episodes had just come out. I flop a flush draw and check it over to him. He puts out a bet of $55 with about $200 behind. All in.
All in.
I got my favorite hand. I gotta record.
That on your vlog or not what your favorite hand is. I can't call.
Wow. 7 deuce up the diamonds.
Yeah. Hey, Trevor, how do you get Barry Woods to fold? Like, if
why it's your favorite?
you had a little less money, there's no way he's folding.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Woods has more money than everybody in this casino combined right now. And I don't know. I didn't expect him to fold that hand.
So you just put it in anyway.
This next hand, I missed the early parts of the hand because I didn't think anything interesting was going to happen. I had ace deuce on jack 10, 8, ace, and made a small bet on the turn. Got 2 calls. The river was another ace giving me trips, and my opponent in the big blind let out for a jam of $110. I make the call and get the good news. We get some more action going on with the $6 straddle, the $12 blind raise, and I put out the $24 blind raise. Unfortunately, nothing interesting happened in that hand, but this hand was pretty interesting. And by interesting, I mean a train wreck. And I'm just pretty happy that Cam is not available for commentary right now due to her crazy schedule because she would roast me for this one. I'm in there with the $12 blind raise. There's a raise to $75, and for some reason, I feel compelled to put that money in there. 2 players behind also call, so we're gonna take this flop 4 ways with the 6-4 offsuit. All right, let's go. We got a pot, low cards. I put in the request for low cards and smashed this flop. That's 3 cards under 10, that's all me. Bottom pair, backdoor straight draw, the world essentially. I decide to check and slow play my monster. Actions on the 2-seat, and I want to replay this in slow motion here because I don't know if you saw this, guys, but he wasn't even in the frame. But he perked up for this flop. He called $75 pre-flop. I would think he probably has a pocket pair, and he looks like the no set, no bet type of fellow, right? He perked right up there as you saw in the instant replay. So when it gets back to me, I have a very easy fold here for his jam of $185. How much is it? It's less than 200 of one call. 184. Oh, shit. All right. Call. 184, nice hand. Excellent call by me there. I'm beginning to think this guy in the comments section might be right.
185.
Oh,
well.
Can I take it back now?
$1 more.
Nice hand, nice hand. I gotta get lucky, maybe. I'm almost there. I have a 4.
Set a 9.
Oh shit.
Set, no bet.
I almost got there. Nice hand. Apparently word spreads fast in the Capital District as there are now 3 tables going once they hear that some guy's in there playing 6-4 offsuit for $75. I move over to that 3rd table and get into action right away. This time I decide to switch things up and play hand blind again pre-flop and on the flop. On the turn I look down at my hand and I have ace queen on an ace 10 2-3 board. So I go ahead and put in about a $40 and my opponent makes the call. The river card is a 5, which does bring 4 to a straight. But when my opponent checks, I think I just have to go for value, although it's a bit thin, but I will just have so many hands when I play my hand dark that I think he's going to feel compelled to call. So I go ahead and put out the bet of $65. He gives it some thought, but ultimately... Ace queen.
Thank you.
No, I'm folding this hand because I can't beat this guy. This guy is the best poker player I've ever played with in my life. Came to the table. How much money did you have when I came to the table?
It's like 30 bucks.
30 bucks. He's got every chip in the casino now. I developed some fun dynamics with this guy. He was a lot of fun to play with. He legitimately had about $30 when I came to the table. Most of this money he didn't win from me, just from me creating big pots at the table, but it was time for me to get involved with him. He opens to $27 in a straddled pot. I make it 77 with king queen offsuit. We get a cold call from the small blinds. This guy gets in the way of my battle. I'm giving a heat check. Heat check to my man. All right, we got a pot, guys. We got a pot. I need the same flop we had last time. Same exact flop. Flop comes down 7-3-3 rainbow, which is a pretty great flop for me. Going to favor my range a lot. The opponent in the small blind decides to lead out for $50. Fortunately, my man on the heater makes the fold. And when it gets to me, I'm just going to put in a raise here. I can easily have many of the overpairs. I think he likely has a mid-pocket pair, so I'm going to put a lot of pressure on that range. With my hand, I do have overs, and there's a lot of money in the pot already. So obviously stellar camera work here by me. Going to ahead and put the raise to 140 bucks. He looks pained.
It's actually a great flop.
He looks pained.
For a $75 pre-flop raise.
All right, we're gonna show it for the vlog, right? He lays down the pocket 4s and we get to scoop this one in.
45.
All right, let's see what I can find here. Back to playing dark with my friend on the right here. We reach the river where I raise pre-flop and bet the flop. Check the turn. I haven't looked at my hand yet. The board is king 8-8 with 2 clubs. Turn 9, river 4, and I peel up queen 9 of clubs. So I actually had a reasonable hand. I had a flop flush draw and turn a pair. He bet $45, and queen 9 of clubs was actually his second favorite hand, so easy call for me. This is now the 146th straight hand that I've won while playing dark. And of course I gotta hit him with a little needle. You might wanna cash out now. One more hand at this table. Somehow I found myself in there with 8-3 offsuit in a limp pot, and the flop has come 8-5-3 with 2 diamonds, so I have top and bottom. I bet $30 and get 2 calls. Turns an offsuit 4. They check it over to me, and I go ahead and size up to $80. If I did get raised by either of these opponents, I would just let my hand go here. 6-7 got there, but I do need to charge potential draws and worse hands. And fortunately, I get folds from both hands. I think that's a fine result here. Obviously, 2 pair, you want to get some value, but there's just so many bad river cards, so I don't mind just taking it down and moving on to the next table. Double down.
Oh yeah, that's a great hand.
I moved back to that first table, which has some new faces, and I keep finding 7 deuce and raising with it. Not sure what's going on there. We take this flop 4 ways, which comes ace 7-5 with 2 diamonds. Randy in the small blind, who I got to know pretty well over the next few days, played with him in the tournament. He leads out for $30. I make the call and the other players fold. The turn card's an offsuit 10 and he checks. I decided to just check back. I don't really want to inflate this pot too much. He could have me beat. He could have some draws that continue or check raise on me, so I just check it back. River, though, is another 7, so we have trips now with the 7 deuce, and when he checks again, we're going to go for some value. I slide out a bet of $125, and he makes a pretty quick fold, as he said he missed an open-ended straight draw. Last hand of the night, there's an open to $15 in the hijack, a call from the small blind. I decided to put in a 3-bet to $60 with pocket 9s. Opponent in the hijack makes the call, and the opponent in the small blind folds, so we're going to take this flop heads up. The flop comes down ace-6-5 rainbow, and I like a small bet on this board. We want to deny some equity from overcards with our hand. We can get some value from some worse hands like 8s and 7s and 6x, and I think it just works best with our range, so I go ahead and put out a bet of $80. I think I actually like slightly smaller than this sizing. My opponent decides on a call, and we take the turn. Turn is an ace of clubs. Not the worst card for me. It makes it less likely that he has an ace. I don't want to continue to inflate the pot though, so I decide to check and decide based on what he does, and he decides to check back. River card is an offsuit 7, which seems like it's a decent card. I think I can go for a little bit of thin value here. He can definitely have me beat some of the time. He can definitely have some ace-x hands for sure, but he also has hands like 6x and 7-8 and 7-9 that may have decided not to bluff that turn. So I go ahead and bet $115 for value.
No. Kiss him goodbye?
I don't know.
I give full. Is it cooler if you have an ace?
I have 9s. He has ace-10, so we ran into one of those spots where he does have an ace. And, it's a little bit of a thin value bet, but I think it's fine. And I've been getting the best of him throughout most of the session, so I think it's a good bet and a nice hand by him. I rack up for the session, ended up winning about $310. Around 11 o'clock, we finished up. It's important to remember, I won a lot of the big pots that I showed, but I'm playing pretty much every hand and calling raises with crap hands, and those tend to add up a bit. So I lose a lot of small pots, happen to win a lot of the big ones. The next day, I play in the charity series of poker event to benefit Habitat for Humanity. The chip leader at the end of the first break gets $1,000 in cash. I played every hand, and fortunately, I ran really hot and doubled up through Sean Deeb a bunch of times.
Almost even.
Sean got $1,000 back for having those rebuys, and I got this sweet trophy and $1,000. As we got deeper in the tournament, there was this ridiculous hand. I actually wasn't involved, but there was Jack 10 of spades versus 8-7 of diamonds, full house versus straight flush. I ended up making it to the final table as the chip leader, but the blinds were really high, so it was kind of a crapshoot, but a lot of fun in the tournament. I ended up finishing in 4th place for the $600 seat that I was able to exchange for cash. So that was pretty fun. The next day I played in the WPT Deep Stacks main event, $1,100 buy-in. I didn't do a vlog for this because I don't particularly enjoy doing tournament vlogs, so I didn't want to do one. I did have a nice day 1, finishing with 216.5K from a 30K starting stack. Day 2, I could never really seem to get anything going, but I was able to sneak into the money.
Okay, tournament players, congratulations, you are all in the money.
Just busted a tournament here in Schenectady, 32nd place for $2,000 in the WPT Deep Stacks. It was a fun tournament. Didn't get anything going on day 2, but at least made the money. Everyone I met here in Schenectady was very, very nice. I got to play with a lot of very fun people, and I'm looking forward to my next trip up here. Thanks again to Dave Grubb and all the staff here at Rivers.
Daddy!
What's up?
Dad! Dad!
Wait, what?
Why are you here?
Why am I here?
It's your turn.
What kind of question is that?
Where's my trophy? I want it.
It's in the
I want it all and I want it now.
it's in the suitcase.
Give us a big thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel.
Alright, you say bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Say, oh, I am a believer. Oh, don't know